Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Loomer Unleashed. On today's episode of Loomer Unleashed, we're going to talk about a deceptive secret election conference that's going to be taking place in the beginning of May in our nation's capital. No, this is not a conspiracy theory. It's very real and it's very sinister, and it's a sign that the theft of the 2020 election is about to replicate itself as we head into the 2024 presidential election season. A recent poll conducted by the Trafalgar Group in November 2022 showed that 56.8% of American voters don't fully trust that America's elections are fair and accurate. It's been almost 3 years since the stolen election of 2020, and what we've learned since then is the fact that big tech social media companies like Facebook and Twitter played an overbearing role in the outcome of the 2020 election, particularly with regards to dark money donations and even overt political donations that were disguised as a form of COVID-19 assistance. You may have heard the term Zuckerbucks. Of course, this refers to the millions of dollars that were donated by Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg to various supervisors of elections offices and election groups that are partisan in nature, but deceptively presented themselves as nonpartisan election groups that carry out election data research. One of the most notorious organizations that received over $69 million from Mark Zuckerberg and his Chinese wife is a group called CEIR. CEIR stands for the Center for Election Innovation and Research. Now, according to CEIR's website, they want you to think that they're a nonpartisan nonprofit that conducts election research and works with election officials from around the country and both sides of the aisle to support elections that voters should and do trust. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Groups like CEIR and its founder, David Becker, who's a known radical leftist activist, are trying to influence the outcome of the 2024 elections. How are they doing that, you may ask? Well, I recently discovered that David Becker and CEIR are going to be hosting a secret invite-only conference in our nation's capital on May 8th and 9th. And where are they hosting this secret invite-only conference for election supervisors and elections officials across the country? It's so absurd, you have to see it to believe it yourself. They're hosting this conference at the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. Now, I wish that I could tell you who all of the attendees are going to be, but that's the reason why they're having it behind closed doors, so that you don't know and you never find out who is going to be in attendance. But from a very limited speakers list that has since been released on CEIR's website, you can see that the list includes secretaries of states from 6 states, including Nevada, Rhode Island, Colorado, Georgia, New Mexico, New Jersey. They have CBS News as chief Washington correspondent. They have Sarah Longwell, who's the publisher of Bulwark, which is important to note since this is an anti-Trump publication and news opinion website. And then they also have Ben Ginsberg, who's the co-chair of the Election Official Legal Defense Network. It's absurd for CEIR and David Becker to claim that this summit is nonpartisan when they're inviting antagonists and individuals from hyper-partisan news publications that are inherently anti-conservative. You don't see any openly pro-Trump conservative commentators attending this conference, no. In fact, when you look at the secretaries of state who are attending, it's all Secretary of States who were involved in contentious legal battles with President Donald Trump and whom faced opposition from conservative activists. I'm talking about people like the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, and the election officials from Maricopa County that were embroiled in one of the most contentious election audits of the 2020 election season. Making matters worse, some of these officials from Maricopa County who are set to attend and are also on the advisory board of the sister group for CEIR, a group called the Election Official Legal Defense Network, or EOLDN, are currently involved in Kari Lake's lawsuit in which she's contesting the results of her 2022 election. So not only is it a lie to claim that this summit is nonpartisan, but it's inherently unethical for elections officials who are involved in active lawsuits to be attending a summit in a secret closed-door location hosted by David Becker, a radical leftist activist who has made politically charged comments against President Donald Trump and other Republican candidates. Adding more controversy to this summit is the fact that its founder and organizer and the founder of this group, CEIR, is also the founder of ERIC. I'm talking about David Becker, of course. And ERIC, for those of you who don't know what it is, stands for the Electronic Registration Information Center. Essentially what ERIC is a multi-state partnership that claims to allow states to share voter registration data with each other. It's currently used by over 30 states across the country, but its opponents argue that it actually enables voter fraud and it's a violation of voters' data privacy. Now, if Becker truly was nonpartisan, as he claims, he would have taken personal responsibility for his decision to resign from ERIC. However, in his recent statement following his resignation, Becker chose to attack election integrity activists and accuse them of making unfounded conspiracies about the election. I wouldn't call this an election summit to save democracy. I'd call it an election summit to destroy democracy, because it's pretty clear that the individuals who are attending this summit have a vested interest in stealing our elections and making selections instead of allowing the American people to have elections. We would be here all day if I went through the list of advisory board members and elections officials who are set to be attending this conference. So in the meantime, if you're interested in learning more about this super secret summit that's taking place at the International Spy Museum on May 8th and 9th in Washington, D.C., you can read more about it on my Substack at lauraloomer.substack.com. And who knows, maybe this super secret election summit will end up not being so secret after all, and perhaps they'll encounter some spies at the International Spy Museum. You're just going to have to tune in to find out. If you enjoyed this report or you want to learn more about the summit, please be sure you subscribe to my Substack today. You can subscribe at lauraloomer.substack.com. It's free to subscribe, but if you want to support my independent journalism, you can always upgrade your subscription to $7 a month or $70 per year. Also, please be sure that you're following me on Twitter, Facebook, Gab, and Getter at Laura Loomer so that you never miss any of my updates or reports. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this episode of Loomer Unleashed, Goldco. Banks are getting bailed out, and who's going to pay for it? You are. They say that taxpayers won't pay, and they say that other banks will pay. But how are those banks going to get the money? They'll probably raise your bank fees like they always do. And if the Fed step in, you'll likely also be paying an inflation tax. In times like this, storing all your money in a bank may be very risky, as we have seen. So what can two average Joes like you and I even do about it? You can protect your wealth with gold and silver, just like so many other Americans and even banks are doing right now. Call 855-317-5157 or visit goldco.com/Laura Loomer to learn how to protect your savings with gold and silver. Take action today to protect yourself and your family from financial collapse. Again, call 855-317-5157 or visit goldco.com/Laura Loomer and learn how you could get up to $10,000 in bonus silver while supplies last. That's 855-317-5157 or goldco.com/Laura Loomer. Thanks for watching. See you next time on Loomer Unleashed.